I won't be burning for long, though, because this forge will make it good and hot in here. Greetings, everybody. Greetings. Cody Iron Works. We're working on wall hooks today again. I got a huge order for a wall hook. Got a bunch of horseshoe stuff. I might try a little jewelry this afternoon. We finished up a couple of knives this morning. Now it's time for the heavy forging. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Just put your comments in the comment thing there in the doodly-doo. While my steel's warming up, I'm going to prep some horseshoes. Generally, I would do this with the air chisel, but loud and obnoxious. But if anybody's got any questions about blacksmithing, I'm 36 years this year. Blacksmithing full-time, professional. "36 years of this menagerie." These are the greatest. If you don't have a set of these, great tool. Okay, there's enough to get started. If anybody's got any questions or anything, let me know. Live chat is on. Okay. Hi, everybody. Greetings. This stuff out of the way. See there? That's what we were doing earlier today. Turned out pretty good. Good for me. I ain't no specializer of knives. Wait for our stuff to get hot in the forge there. We were working on this morning. Black walnut. It turned out pretty good, but I got to. This is the trouble. Is all of this inside of this finish. That is a pain in the butt to finish this stuff. That's going to be quite a tool when I get done with it. Might take a little more off of the inside. It's just a little thick. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Let's get the big whacker out. Start this little project. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cody Iron Works. I'm NJ. This is Cody Iron Works. you haven't been here before, we make cool stuff. Do a lot of knives. I do a lot of jewelry. Do a lot of interior stuff. That stuff. Teach you guys how to do stuff, actual and real stuff in the real world, including making tools. I'm NJ, and we're in Cody, Wyoming, hence Cody Iron Works. Oh, your son's Cody. Yeah, I don't know when it became a really popular name, but at some point, Cody became a popular name. I think a lot of people name their after they've come to Cody, actually. People, thanks for the likes, everybody. We're working on all kinds of stuff today. Yesterday's live stream was these wall hooks. And I got to do these in chapters because they're quite a bit of work. And so today I'm going to work on some of these. We're going to pour some horseshoes. And I don't know, I might even work on this knife some more this afternoon. We'll see what happens. Cody Rhodes, WWE. Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. I'm pretty proud of the way this one turned out. I need to polish up the blade a little more, but it's actually a piece of Damascus. I don't quite have it etched deep enough. You can kind of see the pattern there. Boy, Joel did a good job on those sheaths today. Okay. Once all of this stuff gets hot, we're going to move in some material. It's about 15 degrees outside. It's a really cool day to be in the shop and in front of the forge today because it is really cold here. Cold and snowy here in Cody, Wyoming. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I appreciate it. If there's something you want to see or if there's something on the back wall or something that you're interested in seeing, anything that floats your goats, more than happy to answer. See if we can do a space here. Takes a little bit to get that heat generated in that steel. Takes a few minutes. It's about the minimum heat I need. We're just going to push that material around a little bit in that shoe. And then this is going to be the back plate for probably some hat racks. Step one, set down. Set down. I've got a place on my anvil that I've taken the sharp off, so you get a nice round shape in there. if you got the appropriate spring and you weren't too worried about the dimension, you could do it with a couple of cutoff wheels and a 4.5-inch grinder. If you had a good way of holding that piece of spring down and cutting it. But you'd have to find the appropriate spring to do that. You'd want something fairly thin. And I don't know, a very small car, like a compact car, something that had a short spring, maybe a Volkswagen Bug or something that only had a spring in it that was maybe 3.5 feet long. And then you could draw out the tapers on that, and you could cut it with a cutoff wheel. That way you wouldn't lose the temper in the spring. I got to get my heat back in here. Afghanistan, wow. Got to get my heat back down in here a little more. Trying to draw them down and get them as even as I can. part of this deal is you got to use your own tools. You got to make up your own tools. And then we're going to go over here and use this. We're going to go over here and use this tool. You can kind of see how. Got to do his eyes yet. Stand by. Okay. Next. Sometimes they're a little happier than other times. Okay. Keep the eyes on Mr. Hack here. That's better. As steel heats up, you get a better. Right. How's everybody doing? See, he's a little, this was the second one. He had a little more heat in him. And so they just come out a little better when you get a little extra heat. Okay, now let's do our heart out of our horseshoe. So this rounding hammer that I use, see how it's got a round face and a flat face, round face? It's called a rounding hammer or a turning hammer. Well, you use that as a die for shaping different things. This is called a crossbeam hammer, and it does that. Now we let everything get a little hot because this next little step, I need to have everything just an extra couple of 100 degrees hotter. Generally, after everything gets cooking, I just rotate through the pieces. That's why I do 2 or 3 at a time. Put one in the forge, it gets hot. While you're working on one, then you can swap them back and forth. That's the great thing about a propane forge is you can adjust the heat to be so you're just right, so you're not overheating your material. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the likes, share, and do all that stuff. Comment. I got just a little more flatness. There is our heart. It's backside. That's the side of the shoe that goes against the horse's foot. And this is the ground facing side. Lots and lots of them. Lots and lots of them. Whale tail. Hello. a little whale tail, bend it over, a little decorative doobly-doo. Here's the second one. Don't take long for that heat to leave that material until that anvil gets hot. And if I forge for a couple hours, that anvil gets so hot you won't be able to put your hand on it. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Thanks for monitoring I appreciate that. I don't need a lot of bad in my messages, my comments. Appreciate that. We're working on these little fellows today, a couple of them. I think I need 6 or 8 of them. There's most of our happy little horse face. Now, I could leave them like that and leave the faces against the wall like that. I like to turn them out. I like for the face to be sticking out away from the wall a little bit. Serbia? Oh my goodness. You're a long way from home if you're on this podcast, on this live stream. The trick to get them even, fairly even, is to always use the same place on your anvil. All right. We're done with this water for a minute. be a bending wrench. So I've modified myself an old wrench. I've taken the sharp edges off the insides of the jaws. But the good thing about this is it can go any size. So instead of having half a wrench for everything I'm doing, I've got one little wrench that I can use for everything. Just a little bit of art to brighten your day up. Yeah, now we're talking. See, he turned out a little nicer. Sometimes my first one doesn't always meet my standard. Which one am I using here? That's the baby. Well, let's see what this message is. All right, how's everybody doing? kind of in your own purgatory when you do this stuff, because you do something that's popular, and then people see it, and then they want them. So I've done something like 500 of these. The horse head hooks, I have no idea how many. I do so many of the horse heads. There's a hook. Now we're cooking with some gas. See, they go a lot easier once everything gets hot. Takes a little bit for them to get all heated up. Once you get them, once everything, the inside of the forge gets hot, all the tools get a little warmed up, everything goes much smoother. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. When I do these live streams, I kind of just take my time, go slow. You guys weren't watching. I'd be slinging that hammer, boy. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. Something different to watch than the news or game streaming or talking heads. Something a little different. actually building something, creating something, a little art, a little useful stuff. Here's something that you probably never see. So this is a towel bar for toilet paper, and it's got a little forged place on it, so this mounts against the wall like this. Put a towel on here or whatever. Kind of cool. I do a few of those. But here, so these are arrowheads that are forged out of round stock. And there's another. See, make a little cup for the end of the arrow to go. And these are a drawer pull made out of a old horseshoe. Kind of cool. I do jewelry. There's my little horse head. And I actually even inlaid a little piece of copper on the inside of this one, which is tricky. There's this little horse tail on that end, and there's this little horse face. Sometimes I do faces, sometimes I do leaves, candy scrolls. You got to keep quenching those off, or else that heat will run right down those reins, and those tongs will get hot enough that they're uncomfortable to hold. So you got to quench them off once in a while, or else you're making your life harder. Now we got to find the center of that horseshoe. Everybody's pretty quiet today. Yeah, you got it. But when you got a big old meat paw like that, I can take the heat pretty good. But if you let them get too hot, they get soft, of course. Your tongs get soft and then they spring. So once this bolster gets hot, then they get loose. And when you go to squeeze on something, you just bend the reins. So you got to keep them cooled off, or else you end up messing up your tools and you got to go back in and reforge your tools up. They're plenty hot. Got started doing this a long time ago because I was a horseshoer. I started as a farrier. That's how I got started in this. And so I can tell what kind of a horseshoer you are by looking at the old horseshoes that have come off of the feet of the horses. Like I know that this was a hind shoe. This was a hind, before I even picked it up, I could have told you this was a shoe off of the back of a horse. And he was a pretty good sized horse because that's an ox shoe. So that horse probably weighed 1,000 pounds or better. I can also tell you he was a pretty even traveler because the toe on this shoe is worn real even. Like you get a horse that's a little cowhocked, which means they kind of toe out in the hind. They'll wear one side of the shoe down more than the other. And so I can tell a lot about your farrier and about your horse by just looking at the old horseshoes that come off of the horse. So the face on that anvil right here it's supposed to have a 90-degree angle in it right here. So I can set something at the end of this back here, and I can use the face of this anvil as a square. So when I have to square stuff up or I want stuff to be symmetrical, I can use the face of this anvil. That's why I always tell people, don't mess around with old used anvils that don't have bases left on them. Go down and spend the money and get a new anvil, because it's a lot easier to learn how to forge on something that's got a nice flat face on it, where the horn is truly round and everything is 90 degrees. And nowadays, there's a whole bunch of companies that are making anvils, so you can buy a new anvil for a couple of bucks a pound now, unlike when I started. Pretty hard to find a decent anvil, a decent blacksmithing anvil. You could find Farrier anvils, but a decent blacksmithing anvil is hard to find. My son was in here last week, and he's a great big Viking-looking son of a gun. He's 6'3" and weighs 220 pounds, and he swings a big striking hammer for me. And so when he's here and I get him for a little bit, I have him come in and he helps me take these old railroad spikes and draw out the rough shape on these spikes, and then I can go back and I can finish them up when he isn't here. You can get as dramatic as you want to with these. You can draw that taper out as long as you want and do all kinds of crazy stuff with these. But I keep it, because I do so many of them, I tend to keep it simple, stupid. Just like the first one, that one turned out a little better. Used horseshoes are a little hard to deal with because there's none of them that are even. Because the horses wear one side of the shoe more than the other, you end up with one side that's got more material in it than the other side does. So just you got to get used to that. Thanks for joining in, everybody. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. Anybody's got any questions? There's a few blacksmiths on YouTube. There aren't too many who've been doing it as long as me. I started in 1989, and I was doing steel and working with steel before that. So what is that, 36 years I've been doing this professionally? Okay, now we're going to twist that railroad spike knife up, but I can't do it on this vise because it walks around too much. So I'm going to turn you around. We're going to use this vise that's now solid. That is the only snap-on tool in my whole shop. Works pretty good for that. Shout out to Snap-on Mark for sending me that. I don't know what those are. Those are the biggest channel locks I've ever seen. But for doing this kind of work, they work very, very well. You guys ever seen a Sherman tank screwdriver? So back during World War II, all the Sherman tanks, they'd load some World War II screwdriver, but the end of it was all busted off. So I made it into a hook to get stuff out of the forge with, but pretty cool how they did that, all that forging. So they did that in a press. They had a top tool and a bottom tool, and they smash it when it was hot, and then they draw down that. So that's all one piece of steel. Kind of cool old technology. Do this right, you can forge about 80% or 80 or 90% of the blade without having to grind it. There's kind of two kinds of knife makers. There's stock removal guys, and then there's guys that forge their blades. They're part of the reason I can do a couple of hundred knives a year is because I forge my blank down, get it as close to finish as I can. They call it forge to finish, and I try to get it down as close as I can to the finished pattern. Before I take it to the grinder. Got that one just a little off center, but it'll be fine. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents. So the two different kinds of blades, we were talking about forged blades and stock removal blades. So this would be a forged blade. So this started its life as a rasp, as a horseshoe. This is a horseshoe and rasp. So what I did is I forged this knife out of this material. Hence the reason that it's got those marks. That's the teeth from the rasp. Here's another one made out of a rasp. Okay, so forged out of a piece of rasp. All these ones that I forged out of horseshoes, they're all forged out of rasp. Now the difference between a forged one and I don't do a lot of stock removal knives, but this is a piece of Damascus steel. You can see the pattern if I get the light just right. There you can see the pattern in it. See the pattern? I need to re-edge it. But this knife just came as a billet, and I cut it with a stock to make a knife. And then as you can see the guard, I forged up this guard, and then I split the guard and slid it over the blade. And then if I get the light just right, there, you can see the pins. So while this blade was still soft, I drilled 2 holes all the way through. There you can see. And then I fit that to that. And then I hardened up the blade, got the blade all pretty well finished up, and then pinned everything together. I kind of finished this one up on the live stream from yesterday. So if you'd like to see me build this knife, you can go back and look at some of my other videos and you can see it. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I really appreciate that. That helps. This is Osage. So that's kind of the two styles of knife making, and you can do a combination of both. But see how I did file work on the back of this one? And of course, this one's not done yet. I need to polish this one off. It's been hardened and tempered back, but I got to finish up I got to polish it all up. I'm trying to decide if I like this handle. I think I'm going to go in here and take some of this handle material down a little bit. I got it just a little flat. So I'll go in here with the flap wheel and sculpt this up, and then I'll get in here. I don't really have a good tool to get in here, so I'm going to have to finish this part of this knife by hand. So got the leg on that one quite a bit longer. One leg's quite a bit longer than the other, so we're going to have to do a little. We're going to have to cheat it a little, but no big deal. So if you like what I'm doing, or you want to see more, of course you can subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost nothing. If you want to see what I sell, you can Google Cody Iron Works and the Etsy store will come up. And then you can see all the different wall hooks and all the stuff that I made. Like these. You guys will probably never see another set of these again. So this was a big piece of round stock, a little bigger than that when I started. And these are old school fence stretchers for like stretching the old style barbed wire fence. You put your wire in there, you slide this up, you put your wire in there. See, there's a little gap in there. And you put one wire in there, and you put the other wire in the other side. And then you use leverage to draw the two ends of the wire together so you can take the slack out of the fence. That's a pretty that's pretty good forging. And a lot of forging. And that's all one piece. You can buy them new now, but of course they just do the rings and they just weld them on a piece of steel now. They don't forge them out anymore. So I don't know that I'll ever do another set of those. That might be the only set I ever do. All right, there we go. See how I got the one leg a little long? It had a little more material in it than the other leg, so they aren't quite even, but hey, still looks like a heart. Pretty cute. I might tip this one in just a little more. No mistakes, just happy accidents. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming in. I got a set up for some other stuff that I'm forging here in a little bit. Might be back later. Get hot and headed, always want to say sequence. If you like the content, slip over to the Etsy store and share some love or subscribe. That'd be great. Go watch some of my other videos. Thanks, everybody.